Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the banks of a local river. I don't get to fish it as often as I'd like, especially this winter. It's actually fine down, it's still high, but the good thing is there's some, it's quite clear. The pike that we're after today wouldn't have actually fed for a little while, so what with the floods, etc. So we're fairly confident of getting some action today. I'm with my fishing partner, my good mate Chris, who is just the next swim down, and what we're going to do today is typical of how I fish a river, especially if I'm trying to locate the pike, and that is to actually drop into swims, fish it for about 30-40 minutes. Normally, if there's a hungry pike in the swim, you're going to get a response very quickly, well within that time. I mean, if I'm here and I get a knock after 30 minutes, then I'll probably give it another 20 minutes. And if I don't get anything, come back later in the day. So today is an in session. I'm actually fishing from myself today, but I'm going to make a little video to show you us moving around the river, fishing just one rod, no drop-offs, no bite alarms. Indication is watching that rod tip, because bites can be extremely gentle, just a tiny little tap, and you need to pick that rod up and strike. I'm using braid. I've got 45-pound braid on, which will enhance those bites. No time for waiting, drop-off indicators, like I've said before, waiting for the alarm to go. You need to be on that rod straight away, because a pike comes upstream, picks up your bait, backs your knock, sits there, eats it, and when the actual drop-off goes or the rod arches over, that's when the pike has probably swallowed that bait and you're in trouble. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, keep watching, and hopefully through the course of this morning and early afternoon, we're only going to fish till about 2ish. I'm going to cover lots of space, and hopefully we'll catch a fish or two. Rod's been out probably about 15 minutes, and that's typical of fishing these rivers, especially after the floods when the fish are hungry. You just got to keep moving around, dropping a bait in a swim, and this looks like quite a good fish. I would help him, but I need some video coverage of, yeah, that's not a little one. Not massive, but first fish of 24 for Chris. I haven't had one yet, and this is his first trip out. I've been out quite a few times. Nice. I can see the hooks nicely straight out, semi-barbless, bait flags just showing where the barbs are. Job done very quickly. So cracking river pike, that didn't take long. I'm guessing that's a double, probably.
Yeah, I would have thought it's just about a double.
12 pound probably, we weigh it. Nicely hooked, striking early, fishing braid. River crocs. Well done, bud. Well done, mate. Cracking fish. Whoa! Well, if I can catch the smallest in a river, I can catch the biggest. This is probably the smallest pike I've ever caught on a dead bait up here. Tiny little jack. So as I say, you never know up here. It hardly gets fished up here, and just getting a bite, the next one could be a 20, even a mid-20 or bigger. So all you got to do is just keep roving around. That came after less than 5 minutes in a new swim. tiny little tap. I'm fishing braid, and I even then I thought you just wouldn't have seen that on mono, so there's a reason why I'm using braid. I'm happy with this one. It might be a tiddler, but the next one could be its big mother, 20 pound or more. So I said Chris has already had one 12, you went 12.6, didn't it, Chris? 12 pound, 12.4, 12.5, so that was a lovely fish. Yeah, happy with that, although it'd be nice to get a bigger one, but that's my first fish of 24. Let's just hope they get bigger from now on. Well, I'm going to make this my last swim. We've covered about probably a dozen swims today, just for the one bite each. Chris had that sort of low double, which went just over 12 pound, and I had the smallest pike I've ever caught up here. But as I said, the next bite could be the biggest pike in the river. That's the exciting part about fishing a river that's not fished a great deal. As you can see, I'm just putting a sardine on, and I've just broken the head off. I'm not taking it home for pre-bait. I've got a lot of pre-bait at home, and all today was moving in different swims, putting a bait out for 10, maybe 30 minutes at the most, and hopefully getting a response. The river's not perfect, it's fining down. It's probably the temperature's going down as well. Bright blue sky, cold night. Going to go even colder coming up in the next week. So you know, it's just nice to be out, covering a bit of new ground, and getting the odd bite, which it was just the odd bite. So I'm going to just get this out. Just going to run through why you use braid on the river, and then probably call it a day in about 10 minutes, 20 minutes time. Well, I mentioned I was using braid, and the reason being is the bites you get on this river and quite a few other rivers when you're using dead baits are tiny little taps. You'd almost miss them on mono. So the reason we use braid is to exaggerate those tiny little knocks. And you know, both bites me and Chris have had today, I don't think you would have seen them on mono. You would have been waiting for the rod to go, and by that time the pike might have been deep hooked, because in my thoughts a pike here, they're not feeding on small fish. There's very few live bait small fish here, so they do locate their food source through scent and taste in the water. Yes, I might cast a sardine out. That plot might attract one, because it's a pike in that area is going to be alerted to that. What was that? It might see the dead bait come flying past, or it might be popped up if frozen at the start and wafting about. If you're lucky enough to cast it on a pike's nose up here, but it's not a really prolific river, but there's always a chance of a big fish. Any river that doesn't get fished a great deal has the potential of, you know, producing something very special. And in my mind, those pike in here, they're locating their food source, the dead bait, through scent in the water. And the reason I break the heads off is to leak that blood, that oil down. And I've always said to people, it's like a fish and chip shop sparking up the fryers, and you go, oh, I can smell that. And it's the same. You put a sardine in the vicinity of a pike, it might not see it, but if it's hungry, it's going to pick up that scent, move in, and when you get that little tap on the actual rod tip, that is the pike just sucking that bait in, just picking the bait up. It's then going to eat it, and by the time your drop-off indicator falls away or your rod bends over and your alarm goes, that fish is deep hook. So in my opinion, there's no room up here to really fish mono, and you keep your eyes on that rod tip at all times. Braid, great, exaggerates the bites. And you know, earlier I got caught in a snag, like this river has just got trees falling in it all over, and I just pulled out, put some pressure on, slow pull, and I just bent that hook out. So with braid, you can actually pull the hook straight and then come out of a snag, whereas with mono, it's going to break the mono and you're going to leave your rig in the water. So yeah, one rod, not two. There's no going to sleep up here. It's vigilant, watching that rod tip all the time, moving around. And as I said, conditions aren't perfect, but we've managed to bite each. And we'll be back and hopefully catch up a few more fish, and you know, the odd whacker to show you by the end of the season. Well, I wasn't expecting anything in that last swim, and nothing actually happened. And as you can see, I'm still in the old tiny little smart car, and absolutely no news on my Audi for the last 2 weeks. I was meant to get an update middle of last week, but it's the middle of this week and nothing. But that's not, you know, what unexpected actually, because their communication has been terrible. So temperature, what is it, the 14th of January, temperature's meant to go really, really cold the coming week. -4s, -6s in town. So I've always thought up on the river, if temperatures are below 6 degrees, and that's even at night, then you're really up against it. Don't get me wrong, all the time there's a bait in the water, you've got a chance. So yeah, not a lot from today. Did get some signs in another swim which need to be investigated in a future visit. Probably might have been a chub, but you never know. So that was a little bit to go on. I'll probably do a couple of sessions up here over that cold period, but I'm not expecting a great deal. So yeah, thanks for watching the videos. Hope you got a little bit out of this. Don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, and yeah, see you again very, very shortly.